Hey, good afternoon, everybody. You know the drill. It isn't like we haven't been doing this forever.
Don't sound so excited about it.
Well, you got to start. How do you start with something different, right? You know, we have been doing this for a long time.
You start with "and now" for something completely different.
That's right, exactly. So I assume everyone can hear me. Everything is good. John gives me a thumbs up, which is all that really matters in this world. So, yeah, let's start with some bad news. Probably no weekend testing. We're still trying to track some stuff down. We've made a lot of improvements to the code. Unfortunately, some things also weren't improved. That's the bad news. Though we've been running tests all week, so it isn't like you folks haven't been able to join in. But obviously only the people really who are Europeans and some in the U.S. who have free time during the day. But hopefully next week. It will actually be a focus of the team next week to have a solid build up there. And the build is mostly solid, but certain things disappeared for a little bit, like sound. So we'll wait till we get everything back mostly to where it was, as well as all the news things. So that's the bad news. Good news. Next Friday, very special update. It's an update that you folks have been waiting for. It's an update that you've been so patiently kind while bugging me. Like, when's this update going to happen? This update is the Mage update. Ben will be running the update, most likely with JB. JB obviously has been leading the efforts on the UI with the UI team, and Ben obviously on design. So I thought those two folks could handle it. Obviously, I would jump in if one of them is ill and can't complete their role in the performance as a good old understudy. But I'd really prefer if Ben and JB get to talk to you about these things, because this way you can ask not only about the Mage design, abilities, things like that, but you can also talk to JB about the UI. So I think it's a great opportunity for both of them and you all. So again, next Friday, right now, will be a live update and presentation by Ben and JB. Having said all that, overall, pretty good week in the studio. Not an especially good week, not a bad week. Just one of those weeks where, hey, we get a lot of stuff done. That said, let's move to the top 10-ish. I'd like this to be a fairly short one as well, mainly because I've got things to do before the end of the day that I would like to get done this time. So, number one, work in progress, tech doors. So there's a bunch of items on this, which, because of timing, I won't go through them all. But the idea is, hey, we want doors. Why do we want doors? Well, you want doors. We want doors. We want to knock down doors. We want to keep, we want to keep the riffraff, like the Vikings out of the house, and if the door's open, they'll come in, they'll make themselves comfortable, they'll steal stuff. I mean, Vikings. So we're going to have doors. And you can imagine once we get doors, what we're going to do after that. I'm not saying what, but you folks, especially those who played these kind of games before, probably know what's coming next. Foreboding? Hint? Red herring? Nah. Red herring's generally not good to eat. Number two, work in progress. Tech prediction optimization. So this has been fun. The idea is that, our projectiles weren't always doing what they were supposed to be doing. So Rob has been spending a lot of time in that code, fixing things and breaking things. So what we've seen so far is all really good, minus the breaking things. And I was in a test just a few minutes ago. Lots of trebs firing, lots of magic mortars firing, lots of NPCs firing. Everything seemed nice and smooth. And, the ones that were firing, the prediction looked pretty good. Number three, work in progress, UI character creation. So James spent time this week working on new art for a reskin of the character creation UI. He has added the mage classes so they no longer appear as archers, and has updated the starting character art for all classes. Obviously, something that was really needed, and we finally had time for him to get to it. Number four, work in progress, SFX Chaos Magic. So DB worked on creating sound effects for the Druid's Chaos Magic. Quote the DB, Chaos Magic is hard. I don't have any recordings of chaos in my libraries. Talk about your underprivileged childhood. I mean, geez. Working all these years and he doesn't have chaos libraries. We got to get a program to help him. Number 5, work in progress, art, Magic Mortars. John completed work on the TDD and Arthurian reskin of the Magic Mortars. So what are these Magic Mortars for? Well, one of the things for those of you who have been in our tests may have noticed, or noticed the lack thereof, a lot of visible smoke and fog and all that. Those are items that are on our list to improve. Obviously, we don't want the whole game fogged out, because that's a way, other games can cull things. Oh, look, it's just fog. No, it's so you don't have to render stuff. But we did want smoke, and we do want fog on the battlefield. So these Magic Mortars actually throw smoke, which acts as a debuff. Number 6, work in progress, tech Navmesh. So the ongoing saga of Navmeshes continues, and Lee worked on the algorithm to analyze the message for blocking edges that are impassable. And, if you've ever been analyzed, you know that, things that block you can be very difficult. No, okay. Well, I don't know if that was going to go anywhere good, so why don't we just stop right there? Anyway, what does it mean? It means that, as we've been talking to you all about with NPCs, with anything that needs to, navigate, you need a way for them to find their way through these kind of complicated worlds. Because we're not building out levels, as you folks know. We're just building on we're giving you a framework to build your own levels, essentially. So we kind of need NPCs to be a little bit smarter, and that's what a Navmesh does. Number 7, work in progress, shader optimizations. So Wiley tweaked some shader options so we can build less shader variants. Now, does that mean you're going to have worse shaders? No, it doesn't. It means it's going to speed up the time it takes us to improve our shaders. Number 8, work in progress, design, world map. So depending on your point of view, what Ben has been working on for the past week either looks like the human brain or a world map. I'll content myself to think it's the world map. Who knows, maybe it's the human brain and Ben is doing something really revolutionary on his PC, but it's actually the world map. Again, I hope so, which really does give you an idea of the kind of things we're focusing on now. Hopefully, you'll see a finished one soon. Number 9, work in progress, the ability book. So AJ, other than the fact that the poor kid was sick all week, I don't know if he got Chipotle'd, but certainly something did not agree with his stomach. But he's completing work on the ability book, and it's now up for an art review. Number 10, work in progress, another odd item, light armor. So Dion completed the LODs for the TDD and Arthurian light armor. So yay, more game stuff. Number 11, art, animations. Scott and Sandra continue to work on animations needed to support one-handed weapon combinations. So Scott created some new and unique idols and fidgets for a sword and dagger, and Sandra is working on mace, hammer, and axe. So once again, hey, more game stuff. And that's it. Like I said, not a especially great week, not a bad week, just a week. So 11 items, some of them really good. Certainly the news on the presentation, I would think, you all would think would be pretty good. And that all said, let's get to Q&A so I can go work on some other things that I need to get done.
Odelvik, here we go. Odelvik keeps peppering you with this question. A long time ago in an office far, far away, I once asked MJ if there was a hidden meaning to the CSE logo, to which MJ said yes, and he might share it with us one day. Is this the day we are looking for?
So I think I've told this story before, but maybe I didn't, at least not on stream. There's potentially 2 meanings to the city-state logo. So many years ago, after Ian and I parted ways, I thought what would be cool would be to set up another game studio. What a surprise. And thought about where to do it, how to do it, and the idea of setting up a studio in Asia came up. And a company that I had worked with in the past. Thought that would be a good idea as well. So once my non-compete with EA ended, I actually started discussions for that. After all, I'm so big and scary. I needed an NCA from EA. So I entered into those negotiations. 9 months later, unfortunately, I pulled out of them. Things were taking way too long, and I really wanted to get back to making games, and I had already blown a year because of the non-compete, and then, remember it was 8 months, 9 months on the negotiations. Now, the government that we were negotiating with was, of course, drum roll, the only city-state in the world, Singapore. And so I thought, what a great name for a studio in Singapore. I was kind of shocked that nobody else had thought of that, but they hadn't, and so City State Entertainment was going to be its name. Now, other people have told me that they thought that maybe City State had another name, another reason for that name, or I had another reason, for that name. And it was a reference to my time in EA, and how there was a quote by a gentleman I won't name, not because I have anything against him, but again, I'm try to be very polite when it comes to these things. That all the studios in EA were like city-states. I had a retort to that, and I simply left that alone. And so some people think that that's a slight and subtle dig at EA, which it actually isn't. The first reason for the name and the main reason was because I was in negotiation with Singapore. I love Singapore. I had a fantastic visit there, and I met some great folks from the government, and I thought that could be really cool. Love that, and I do. I thought City-State is just Singapore is just amazing. And when it all fell through, I still like the name, so therefore City-State Entertainment. How's that, Odovic?
We'll see. I'll read Odovic's response if it comes up.
Sure, then keep going.
Thank you for the explanation, says Odovic. All right. Tarikaman asks, will there be ability components or ability building for defensive or utility abilities, or will classes just get a set of default abilities for those types?
No, we want everything to be crafted by players. Will it end up that way? Well, obviously, we will find out. But the whole idea behind the ability crafting was really to give you guys and gals, a way to customize your characters, whether it's crafting abilities or whether it's, crafting abilities or crafting combatant abilities. So yes, that's still the plan. Now, could it change? Absolutely. Do we want it to change? No, not really.
Come on, folks, where are all those design questions that I can't answer on Morning with Max?
Or not. Save any mage-related questions, please, for next week. Yeah. Where you can put Ben on the hot seat.
Svarty says it's about your story. It's lame because you didn't slay any dragons for it.
No, I didn't have to. I mean, again, the folks at Singapore were fantastic. I absolutely adored the city-state. Very an amazing place, a really, really cool place, and would have, happily moved the fam to Singapore for a few years while setting up the studio.
Real Life Gobbo asks, where there be plans for false floors or other types of traps while constructing your buildings?
Sure, absolutely. We've talked about traps. It would be, I don't want to say it would be silly if we don't do it, but I certainly want to have traps in this game. And I can't imagine that. I don't know exactly what level we'll go with them, but we'll certainly have some kind of traps you can place. And that's the difference between, say, some ability you lay on a piece of floor or on a wall, as opposed to actual, like trapdoors and stuff. So we'll see. One of the nice things about the code that they're working on now with the doors is that it gives us a lot of flexibility. So we'll see. I'm sure we'll have some surprises.
Sacrix asks, we still on for 2019?
Still on for 2019. I'll let you folks know, as soon as I know if there's a change. Hopefully there won't be. You've seen building destruction. I assume, Sacrix, you've seen building destruction. You've been part of the, or hopefully you've been part of the craziness with all the trebs and magic mortars firing. So we've said from the, right from the get-go that building destruction was always going to be something difficult. Kind of looks like we got it. We can improve it, absolutely, but it's working really nicely. So hopefully we'll continue to have luck in our hiring decisions, and that we will be able to make 19.
Odilvik asks, what gameplay feature of any other game out there do you wish you'd invented and implemented in CU as a unique thing?
Oh, that's real. That's a good one. That's a real good one. Oh boy, that may take me a few minutes. What game feature that I didn't invent, that didn't happen before made Dark Age or Warhammer? Well, I think it's actually flying mounts. Believe it or not, that was something that I wanted for Dark Age. I had told this story. I know I've told the story a number of times. I wrote a white paper for it for, the team, and it never happened. But I definitely would have loved to have flying mounts in either Dark Age of Camelot or Warhammer. Obviously, they pose design issues, and certainly in a PvP game like Warhammer and Dark Age, even greater issues. But just the idea of flying to the rescue and aerial combat, all of that would have been really cool to be the first game to do.
Professor TV asks, this may be too soon to ask, but when you plan on releasing the game, will you put time into figuring out the timing of release to not overlap with other big hyped games?
Probably not, only because you folks have been waiting for this game for so damn long that I don't think I would hold it up for that. Is there a possibility we would? Sure, but I doubt it. We're not going for a mass market game here. We're not looking to be something that can say, hey, we can, out Elder Scrolls or wow. So I don't think we would do anything like that. But, you never know. Our focus, though, is, we got to get this game, we got to continue moving this game along, and we got to get this game out. So right now, that still is our focus.
Alganash asks, will the Gathering node be protected, and will we need fighter protection during the Gathering process?
So it depends where you are. Some nodes, as I've said right from the beginning of the Kickstarter, will be in safe areas. Telling a new player, hey, you just got to go out and, gather in the most dangerous areas to get started, seems a bit harsh. So we're not going to do that. Plus, the whole idea has, again, from the beginning been the safe areas, the safe island. It's there, so no matter how outnumbered, no matter how bad it is, players can still do things, that they can still craft, they can still gather. You really don't want to be in a position where you come into a world and because you've lost this, that, and too many things, that there's nothing for you to do, there's no reason to come in, there's no way to contribute to the war effort. So, no, we always want people to be able to come in and do things, even, when, God, you're greatly outnumbered and, there's nowhere safe that you can get to. Or somewhere, not safe, somewhere, because you don't even want to say secure, it's tough. Something in your possession that belongs to your realm. You still should always be able to do something.
Svarty asks, In the near future, will we get any more detailed info on the design and decisions for Seaching and Tapping?
Oh my God, yeah. So I know when I say things like that, people go, yeah, but you still haven't given us this doc. Well, you haven't done this update. Well, here you go. Now that we have the new ability builder in, now that you can actually use abilities, even though they're not, obviously all working, and some definitely have bugs, we said we'd start the presentations. So, as always, I'm as good as my word, even if it does take a little longer than I would like. So this will be the first presentation. There'll be lots more presentations coming. There'll be more class presentations, obviously a follow-up to crafting presentation, as well as siege presentations, especially when we get into the probably the next level of siege testing.
Mumblefish asks, and apologies if I mispronounce this, did you stay in Raffles? It's nice.
Did not stay in Raffles, though I had a lovely meal and drink outside during a rainstorm in Raffles. And I think they've redone it since I was there. There was something really quaint about it, really cool about it. The bar, if I remember correctly, though I may not be remembering, was, or at least not remembering properly, was dark wood, oak-ish, mahogany, something. Don't remember that well. That was really quite great. But no, I did. I loved Singapore. Loved everyone I met. Loved the meals. Loved driving around. Even though that was a little crazy, because boy, I used to think that New York parking lots were tight, and getting cars up and down there, I swear they're even tighter in Singapore. So that was interesting. But no, really enjoyed it and loved the people I met. People who, actually, the other people that I was talking to seemed to love it too. So it was kind of nice. It was a really nice experience. Multiple experiences.
Dino asks, is there hope for us getting faction hats and beer steins for store merch in the future?
Sure. If you since you've been here a bit, or anyone who's been here a bit knows that I've tried not to sell anything, whether it's horses or T-shirts or steins, other than in very small quantities, because we're late and I don't think that that's the right thing to do. So now that we're in beta and we're almost to the point of streaming, once we do that, yes, I will be happy to start getting some more merch for you folks to buy and for us as well. I just wanted to wait until we were, as I've told everyone, securely in beta and with something that we could live stream, which we are not at yet, but we are getting quite close.
Aircath asks, any new info on support classes?
No, everything is moving along fine. Not sure what you were looking for, other than, everything's moving along with them fine.
Svarty asks, caravan information soon?
Soonish, because that would be part of the siege stuff. So, once we get to that, happily.
ILR asks, if all crunch time had been regulated the past 5 years, would the game's current progress still be the same?
Wow. Okay, I'm not sure what you mean. So, try to rephrase that. Our crunch time has been minimal. So I'm not quite sure what you're going for. Are you saying we should have been in crunch the whole time, or never in crunch, or not? I'm sorry, ILR. I'm not sure. What you're referring to. And frankly, the subject of crunch is one near and dear to my heart, because when I hear what goes on in other studios, I just have to shake my head and go, no, there are better ways to do things. As anyone who's been part of a crunch here can tell you, we don't have those kind of crazy crunches. They don't last for years, and we always compensate. And my joke during the interviews is, and compensation isn't pizza. pizza is food. We bring in food. We compensate, with stock and/or pay, depending on when. When we were smaller, we always did both. Now we do cash. So I think that works out well. But if there's more to your question, and you can explain it in a way that I can give you a good answer, I just don't understand what you're going for. And I do apologize.
I just sent another message. Ilar says, nope, nothing to rephrase. If you say you don't crunch, I take your word for it.
Okay, so what we've done is we've had a couple of small crunches. But, as you can ask anyone on our team, happily, you can ask Max. We compensate for crunch. They're short. They are not 7-day crunches. They are not 24, 18 hours a day crunches. We don't do that. And again, we always compensate, and we only do it for very short periods of time.
Can confirm.
Yeah, it's the culture of year-long crunches or multiple in some games, and the crunches that don't compensate their team. I stay away, as you all know, from criticizing developers or publishers. That bothers me. We can do better as an industry. I think that people should be compensated for the extra time. I think that when you're making a lot of money, as a lot of these companies are, not doing that is unfair. It's unfair to the people who work very hard for you. Now I know it's sometimes you can't help yourself if you don't have money, if you're straining to get a project out. I get that, but then you can thank them afterwards if you're successful. And a lot of developers, unfortunately, sometimes we'll just say don't have control of their decisions regarding crunch and compensation if they work for a publisher, and that's where I think publishers need to do better. This is an issue that is of great concern, I think, to everyone in the industry, and should be, not only now but going forward. It's important, it's hugely important, that teams be rewarded for success. And if you're going to ask them to work hard, then you damn well better reward them for success. We did that at Mythic, we're going to do it here, and even better than I did it at Mythic. Not that we did it badly, no, we did it quite well. But we can do even better, and I've already done better. So hopefully you like that answer.
Are we at a 5-minute warning period?
We can keep going for a few more.
Okay. Sacrex asks, when are we going to get first pass info on Resin building rule sets and how you capture with self-built structures?
Soon, actually. I just reviewed a document, as a matter of fact, on respawning. So that's something we will be talking about. Capturing. Not sure when, only because it's just not on the schedule. And what was the third? I'm sorry. I had a brain. You know what? What was the third one? He said 3.
Resin building rule sets and how you capture with...
building rule sets. So in terms of building rule sets, we haven't talked about that a lot in a while, other than the same thing we have said publicly, which is block counts. Trying to limit by any sort of AI or tech rule to prevent people from building the kind of structures we know they're going to build. Isn't going to work. Way too much effort. So there'll be, the spirit of the game rules, of course. Same thing, Sacrex, as you know. I've been saying for quite a while. So that will rely on the community, will rely on GMs as well to help, and of course the TOS, to make sure that things are in compliance. And in terms of the, again, block count, that should also help at least slow down the building of the things that we know people will build once they're given the opportunity in a game like ours. But we also hope expense will take that down a bit as well.
Svarty would like to know, says, time to kill has been asked about before, but I'd like to know, what is your time to kill defined on or based on?
And this is an awful answer. I apologize for this answer. It's the same answer I gave to Ben when we were talking about this as well this week. Fun. It's a horrible answer. I apologize. Time to kill at the end of the day is all about making the game fun for our players. Whatever number I give you right now, any number, is probably going to be wrong. What we want to do, and this is also something I've said from the beginning, is have a game which you're not going around and getting one-shotted. We've said that very clear, very, very clearly. At least in typical combat. Sure, if you walk into the middle of a siege and there's 200 trebuchets and you happen to be the target of those trebuchets and they all hit you, yeah, you're dead. That's not one shot. That's just called being pancaked. In the rest of the game, when you're in real combat between a group, small group versus small group combat, you want to last long enough that it doesn't feel like, hey, I meet a group, this will be over in 30 seconds, and then I have to start the process all over again. So my theory on time to kill is really that, and I know it's a terrible answer, but I think it's also a good answer, is that we want to make it fun. We want to make group versus group combat fun. So whatever we have to adjust the time to kill, then that's what we'll adjust the time to kill to. And I wish there was an easier answer there, or a more fulfilling answer. But it is about the fun. It's not about what vision I might have, or that Ben might have for TDK. It's what's going to be fun and work in the kind of game we're making.
Ben Jones asks, is CU taking any examples from EVE Online in respect to the mass scale of PvP?
Yeah. So examples, yes, sort of, no, and that's another bad answer. So EVE does some fantastic things. Obviously, as a game, one of the longest running, most successful MMOs. Blah 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 blah. Great. Having a lot of ships in their combat is great as well. I mean, they certainly can lay claim to having our Mortars go against each other, which is absolutely awesome. On the other hand, they're a very different game than ours. They can do time dilation. They can do things very differently because you're talking about vast distances between ships. We can't do that. So are there any lessons we can learn from it? Absolutely. We've played EVE and other people. We as a company, individuals have. As well as other games. We try to take lessons from other games, just as people have taken lessons from my games over the years, including sometimes like don't do Trials of Atlantis. Anyway, so I am sure we'll be picking things up and have picked things up. But the thing about what we're doing here that makes us really unique is that our combat is real time. We don't have time dilation. We have to be able to have thousands of people, in theory, blow up shit at the same time, because that's what's going to be happening across the game. Even if there aren't 1,000 people in that battle, there will be thousands of people in battles. So as we build our tech and do crazy, even dumb things, like putting in as many trebuchets as I asked Ben to put in, or putting in all the other things, it prepares us so that when we have this kind of combat going around the world, when we have all these different fights going on around the world, that the engine can handle it. So, that's pretty much the answer. I don't know if that's a great one, but hopefully you like it. I think I said that twice already. I shouldn't say that. Hopefully they like everything, though I doubt it.
Mumblefish asks, will character models be released as 3D files so we can print them off and paint them up for tabletop battles?
We haven't discussed that. Certainly, we might be willing to do something like that as long as somebody didn't try to make a business out of it. But we'll see.
Traven18 asks, what plans are there to grow the studio further? Will you move to Austin?
Funny you mentioned Austin. Somebody brought that up to me the other day, my recruiter, that would be something to think about. As well, somebody else I spoke to mentioned Austin. I love Austin. I had a lot of fun there. I have some good friends down there. I doubt I'd move to Austin. This is no offense to Austin or to the great state of Texas, but it's just, it's hot. It's really hot. And while Ben would love it and not have to wear a coat, probably inside for a while, I think there's a lot of people who, really do not want to be down in Austin. I know the Lady J, if you mentioned scorpions, that just, immediately kills the area for her. And there's a good friend who was down there talked about finding at least one scorpion in his shower once, or his wife found it. Yeah, that wouldn't fly. That just wouldn't fly. So I love visiting Austin. Hopefully get back there soon. But I doubt we would set up there. Even though, again, multiple people have suggested it.
Lotaween asks, do you have a planned limit on the number of abilities that will be able to chain on each other for a single combatant? Can we out-chain ability Unchained?
No, you can't. Yes, there is a limit, or should be a limit, or if there isn't, there will be, for very, very obvious reasons. So yes, there will be some limit. I have no idea what it will be. Because I know you'll follow up with, what that limit will be. I don't know yet.
Dino asks, I know you have some plans for a transmog system. Any ideas of getting a system akin to war with the small trophies we can put on our armor from other players or boss monsters?
Well, certainly I'd love to have that. That was a great idea for war, and there'd be lots of things that kind of would fit with CU. So we'll see. It's just not something we have honestly talked about to this point. But yes, I'd love to have that.
Odovic asks, if a certain material X is better than others to make cubes/equipment from, might we see a finite amount of material X in-game to be fought over, or will materials be infinite?
Oh, that's a real easy one. Materials aren't infinite. Certainly there are some materials that will be very, very easy to get. You'll find it everywhere. But of course there's got to be some kind of scarcity of the more powerful materials. And yes, we've also said, and you know this, we've actually said this during about the depths, that you'll have to go in there to get some very special materials. So yes, there'll be scarcity. There has to be. Yes, materials will be better for certain things. So, yeah, that was an easy one. And on that easy one, 5-minute warning, please.
All right, 5-minute warning, folks. I'm going to start looking for a nice question to end with. Dino asks, are there any plans for how sieges will work for times? I'd hate to build a house or castle with my guild and it gets wiped out overnight while we sleep.
Well, that can happen. Right now, we have said that there aren't going to be, scheduled sieges. Could we go to a system like that? It is something we have discussed, obviously. I am still a fan of sieges that can happen in an open world game anytime. Now, the second part of the answer is probably one that'll make you feel better. If you built this really strong, castle, keep, fortress, whatever you'd like to call it, if you protected it the way you need to protect it, will it be easy for somebody to come and do the equivalent of, say, an alarm clock raid and wipe out your castle? No, that is not part of the game plan. Could they get in there potentially and take stuff? Sure, but this game will not succeed. It really won't. If somebody spends weeks building this amazing structure, and it can be wiped out overnight, by, again, alarm clock raiders, or even just, by a group operating in the very different time zone than you folks are operating in. So expect a lot of defenses for big buildings. We've said that from the beginning. Blocks can have can be magically charged. Blocks, or castles will have guards. So there are things that will make it very difficult. Again, not that they can't get in, not that they can't damage it, but the idea that they can destroy it. We will think about, as Ben and I have talked about and other people have brought up over the years, the idea of scheduled raids. But to me that, and again, it's not 100% no, it takes you out of the game. It makes it feel, or it takes you out of the world and makes it feel more like just a game. It's not a no, but it is something that we would have had to fail, I think, in order to implement it.
FriendlyFire asks, what question are the backers not asking that you would ask?
Oh, stop with those. There's so many. So, sorry, FF. Good try, though. Because that one was special, because if I ask that question, it'll either be a yes-no question and I'm done, or it'll be one that I'll be talking about for, way too long.
All right.
So, but a good one, FF.
Lodween asks, could you tell us what changes in the industry in the 6 years since the Kickstarter funded have changed what you do on a day-to-day basis?
Oh, that's real good. That's nice. I don't know. I don't think there's any. So if you look at, the changes over the last 6 years, certainly Kickstarter has, gotten bigger, then, might have gone down a little. It's still crowdfunding, obviously, is a big deal. Early access is a big deal. AI, but that hasn't impacted us yet. Video cards have improved, just the way they should have. So that has had some effect, but it isn't, it's obviously a good one from our perspective. What else? I mean, obviously, in bigger society, we have the Me Too movement. But as anyone has been through my interview process since here or even at Mythic, knows that this is not the studio that you come to if you're one of the bad people out there. They don't last long here. They really don't. So that really hasn't changed anything. Plus, as a studio, and same thing at Mythic, I've always been a big believer in trying to get more diversity into these studios. So that's not it. God, what else has happened in 6 years? Tech, social, financing. I wouldn't even say this has affected us, not yet at least. Well, maybe it has. Okay, so I got one that has sort of not really changed what we're doing, but I think it's probably the biggest, because again, I'm trying to answer that because that's just a great question. So I think the biggest change for us, quite frankly, was the continued success of companies like Unity, obviously Epic, and Improbable with engines. And so when we went out and had to go get financing to help obviously speed things up, it was much easier for us to say, hey, look, we're building a company with great tech. It doesn't mean we're ever going to license our engine, but it just means that we have tech that has value, so that, God forbid, worst comes to worst, there is value for the investors in the company. And so I think that's probably the biggest change, is that it really made it much easier for me to go and knock on some doors, of people that I knew already, and go, hey, come on, guys, I told you that this was going to happen. because I did, and then it happened. And I've said before, it hasn't. Certainly the valuations of these companies are higher than I thought they would be, other than Epic, because Fortnite, right? But the other ones are certainly higher than I expected. So it made it easier for us. It was an easier, I don't want to say it was a sell, but it was an easier pitch. Because it's like, look, here's what's going on out there. Look at what we can do. So even if we're wrong about Camelot Unchained, or if we're wrong about Cube, if we're, wrong about Mary Kate and Ashley, we'll always be able.
Is that important to this game?
Yeah. Well, it is to Dayak fans. They know the reference.
Oh.
At least some of them don't. Yeah, they may have forgotten by now, so I will explain it. So that just made it a lot easier. It really did. So I think that's probably the biggest change that I've seen that has affected the industry. I mean, that has affected the country or the world. That has affected us, and I thank them for it. Made my life easier. For those who don't know why the hell I would say Mary Kate and Ashley, is simply because that's an old Mythic story. We were trying to pitch Dark Age and pitch another game to a company by the name of Acclaim, and one of the things they said to me was, well, instead of this game that you want to make, we have a better one for you. How would you like to make Mary Kate and Ashley online? How I didn't throw up right there, I have no idea. As anyone who was at Mythic at that time, when I came out of that meeting, my reaction was probably priceless. It wasn't a good one. But yeah, imagine how different the world would be if I had said, that's a great idea, we should do that. Yeah, not so much. So on that great, and fabulous question, thank you for that. That really was a good one. No one's asked me that. I like when people ask me questions like that. It makes me pause. It makes me think. I like that one a lot. So thank you for that. And with that, folks, again, great news. Next week, update. Please be here to hear Ben and JB talk about mages. You've been waiting a long time to see the mages in action, and we're getting them in. The abilities, are in. They're not all working. Anthony is doing yeoman's work, working with Ben, getting them all in. Cross is building out effects for them. So we've got a lot of cool stuff going in for our mages, and I hope you enjoy the update from Ben. And again, sorry about no testing. There's still a slight chance we might have a test, but I don't think so. I was pretty sure this morning we wouldn't, and based on the progress we're making, I'm still not comfortable enough with it. The build feels like a step backwards, even though it isn't. Overall, it's better, but there are just some things that are not working well, which I'd rather not spend somebody's time, your folks' time, or even either Brian, me, or Tim on a weekend test. But I'm pretty sure we will have one next week, and we'll certainly be testing a lot next week. So hopefully you can join us. I might also be convinced to do a weekday night test as well, depending on where we are at with the build. You folks liked that the last time, and so I'll see if I can get one done next week, depending on build status too. So with that, as always, hey, we thank you for your support. We thank you for your patience. I can tell you without any fear of contradiction, things are looking really good. I've been really pleased overall with the way the game's coming around, the design's coming around. Certainly the tech has been overall fantastic. I think you folks are going to like what's coming next in terms of siege weapons, in terms of doors. And while that doesn't seem like a lot, obviously it's something that's needed, as well as all the other things we've been talking about here. It's been so nice to focus on game more than on tech. Focusing on game is fun. You get to really think about these things again. You get to revisit stuff. You get to really spend the time you need, hopefully, to make a good decision or good decisions. And I don't get to do that as much when we're focusing on tech, because I'm not sitting there looking at somebody's code, but I can do that with design. So I hope you like what you see. I know it's going to be interesting. I think it will be pretty exciting, and we'll just have to see what happens. But I think next Friday will be a good start, and I look forward to you all's reactions. So once again, thank you. Have a great weekend. And if I don't jump in a little bit next Friday, I'm sure I'll see you all sometime during the week in the test. So have a good weekend. See you next week.
See you later.